All right, welcome back. Now, coming off the previous video of Be Like Trump, which is a very clickbaity title because he's such a polarizing figure. And in that video, we were talking about how his financial set point is very high. A set point being a type of thought form which determines how much money you can earn. As a magician, part of our responsibility is to get a handle on our thought forms. In fact, you're not going to be the best version of yourself that you could possibly be, which is what we strive to be, unless you confront and replace a lot of the thought forms that are working against you. Those thought forms being automatic subconscious programs that continuously run in the background, whether you think about them consciously or not. And when you do get a handle on them, then your life tends to go pretty smoothly for the most part. Now, I recall in one of Liam Thomas Christopher's videos that he said something to the effect of when you go through initiation, then your life becomes charmed. Things just tend to work out for you. Yes and no, in my experience. Yes, in that the rituals that you're doing should be having their intended effect. But even so, you're going to have to deal with a lot of your junk thought forms and those subconscious core beliefs that are holding you back or even working against you. And once you tackle and replace those, then your life gets a lot smoother for sure. And I'll give a quick example right here. That has to do with the set point, because the set point is a thought form. It's a very common one that a lot of people have. And, I had it as well. And that is that every time you come into extra money, such as a gift, a tax return, just some sudden influx of cash, some additional unexpected expense happens along with it. Perhaps one of your appliances craps out, and it's going to take a lot of money to fix. Perhaps the money that you just came into, because that's often the case. You went over your financial set point by getting the extra money, which activated the thought form to knock you back down to your set point by creating some unexpected expense. That is a common thought form that a lot of people have. And I had it too. So how do you get rid of it? Well, you raise your set point for starters so that when things like that happen, it doesn't matter as much. So raising your set point is the first thing. The second is to just create better thought forms to replace them with, such as every time I spend money, I earn more than I spend. That is a thought form that I created and carefully cultivated until it was able to run on its own. We'll often be like out at dinner or something, and then when I pay the check, I'll then get a notification on my phone for a sale worth more than what I just spent at dinner. That's commonplace now. There was a time when it wasn't. And you may be able to see now how creating your own thought forms to replace the negative thought forms that you have is a completely life-changing practice. Because what you're essentially doing is writing the rule set for your own life. You make the rules. You dictate the rules instead of the rules dictating to you. Now, are you going to be able to get rid of every junk thought form that you have? No, probably not. I still have thought forms that are either not worth the time to change because they're completely useless, or I'm not certain that changing them would be for the best. Kind of like one of those, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of things, even though the form that it takes is kind of annoying. So I thought that today we would go over some of my most useless thought forms that I still have because they're either not worth getting rid of or I'm not completely sure that I want to mess with them. In other words, is it really worth replacing them? So we'll begin with a really useless one, kind of an honorable mention as I was thinking up this list. And that is, my girlfriend tends to call me when I have one thing left to do. So thought forms often take the form of when X happens, Y happens also. And in this case, it's when I have like the final thing left to do on a project or something I'm working on. When I'm on that last step, where I only need a couple minutes, something's going to happen that annoys me. And a lot of times it's just my girlfriend calling me at that particular time. But not necessarily just that. Sometimes other things like the doorbell will ring. Something happens to where I'm interrupted and it's annoying. But it's not really a major thought form. It's more Is it worth fixing? I don't know. Is it worth really spending a lot of time on to get that one under control? Probably not. It's just an annoying thought form that I still deal with. Now, the next one is annoying for me, but it's pretty funny also. And it has to do with when we go out to restaurants to eat. And that is, the waitress will not come back to check on us unless I have a mouthful of food. She'll come back and ask, is everything fine? Do you need anything else? And I'll be like, because I have a mouthful of food. Like every time. To where even my girlfriend laughs at me when it happens. I can sit there and not eat anything, not put anything in my mouth. She will not come back to our table, even though she's walking around. The moment I take a bite of food and have a mouthful of food, here she comes. Is it worth the time and effort to change that thought form? Probably not. Was it worth changing the one where I earn more than I spend? Absolutely. So you have to pick and choose which thought forms you want to change, because we each have a lot more than you think we do. All right, the next useless thought form, and they get more and more useless as they go on, is every time I go outside to the mailbox, especially and in particular, somebody's coming by. Now, we don't live on a busy street, but you wouldn't know that if I went outside, because every time I do, someone's always coming down the street. In fact, we live in a neighborhood that only has one entrance and exit, as a lot of them do around here. So there is no throughway. Now that can help or harm the situation, depending on how you look at it, because in order to come in or out, they have to come down the street. There is no other way out. But it's usually people coming in that tend to go by when I go outside to the mailbox or whatnot. Is it a stupid thought form to have? Yeah, a lot of these are. But they're still thought forms that somehow were created. And then that program's executed every time I go outside. Here comes some fool driving by. Because I think, I could just run out and grab the mail real quick. Nobody will see me in my shorts and t-shirt. It'll only take a few seconds. Nope, somebody's always driving by gawking at me. And there's another thought form that's similar to this. Only instead of it being in the front yard, it's more the backyard and side yard area. That instead of a car driving by, it's my creepy old neighbor with his little dog outside, especially at night, like hiding in the shadows, just kind of creeping on you, just kind of watching you and what's going on. And if it wasn't for his little dog barking at you, you would never see him. And it's never when I don't care to be seen. It's always when I don't want to be seen, like when I'm trying to get rid of some ritual remains or emptying out my soap ritual water, things like that. That's when you look over and he's there, Are these thought forms worth altering? Maybe. I guess depending on who you are. It may bother some people more than others of creepy old man watching you. But, so far it's been pretty harmless. It's just creepy. And it's not that often, like every single day or anything. With the neighbor, it's more like, once or twice a week, something like that. It varies. But it's never been to the point where it's like, I got to do something about this now. And actually kind of forget about it until the next time it happens. And so far it's been inconsequential. So I've never done anything about it. And then that brings us to the last and final useless thought form that I have. Is probably the most useless thought form I or anyone could ever have. It might be considered a great talent if it were not for the complete uselessness of it. And that is, I always make my burgers the exact shape of the bun. Yeah, it's that useless. We tend to buy the brioche buns, which have slightly different shapes to them. And no matter what, when I make a burger, it's the exact shape of the buns. Exactly. There's no calculating it out. There's no judging, how big this is. No, I just grab some meat and pound out a patty, and it just happens to be the exact shape of the bun that I'm using. Like I said, it would be a great talent if it wasn't for how useless this is. My girlfriend's probably tired of me showing her. It happens every single time, without fail. There's never not a time that it's not exact for as long as I can remember. Now, is it worth changing? No, it's not worth changing. It's actually quite impressive. It's just useless. There's nothing I can really do with that talent. And it's not even a conscious talent. It's a thought form. It's a subconscious program. How the hell I got that one? I have no idea. Maybe I said I make the perfect burgers or something. I don't know. But it's absolutely ridiculous. I started taking some pictures of them, but it doesn't really translate well with the picture because it's hard to tell how exact it is from one angle. And I put the burgers on here first by themselves so that nothing else gets in the way of showing how exact it is. Even when there's something weird on the buns, like a flat side or maybe even a point, you never know with the brioche buns, the burger making will follow that. It will mimic that. And again, I don't do it consciously. I don't even pick out the bun straight away sometimes. I'll get it out of the pack as I'm cooking it, and it will still be exact. Doesn't matter. But it's not harming anything. It's not causing any trouble. It's just one of those freak things. And those things being thought forms. And if you're having trouble with your thought forms, whether they be an annoyance or majorly holding you back, you'll want to check out the Thoughtforms and Servitors program over at mindandmagick.com. I'm offering 20% off through this video's links and description only. So you may want to take advantage of that. It is the job of every magician to get a handle on their thought forms, those negative subconscious programs that run in the background and disrupt your life. It can be done, but in order to do so, you'll need to know how. So head on over to mindandmagick.com and pick up the Thoughtforms and Servitors program today. And that will about do it. I've shared my most useless thought forms, the ones that aren't even worth changing. They're so useless, they're more of an annoyance than anything. And the last burger one, as impressive as it may be, has no value whatsoever, so it's not of any use. Comment below what your most useless thought forms are. I'm very interested in reading what other people have going on in regards to this. All right, and I will see you next time. Take care.